This is Religion in the News, sponsored by Wish TV, in cooperation with the Church Federation of Greater Indianapolis.
Good morning, Indianapolis. I'm J.R. Ryder. Welcome to Religion in the News. Joining me today is Jeffrey Payne. We have a great show for you today as our guests talk about a special Southside outreach and a plea to bring back the creative arts. Stay tuned.
Good morning, I'm Jeffrey Payne. Joining me today are Jason Williams and Jerry McAfee, and they're here to talk about a special South Side outreach ministry. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Jason, first let's start with you. Tell us about Community Church at Murphy's Landing.
Yeah, we're a Southside church. We actually were a plant from the Community Church of Greenwood, which is down on Main Street in Greenwood. About 14 years ago, we planted. The idea behind church planting with our planting church is that when a church reaches a certain size, it doesn't need to grow, it needs to expand its reach. So we now have probably in the neighborhood of 30 to 31 church plants in the Midwest. In Haiti, we have a church, we have an orphanage and a school. We have a friend of mine is planting a church now in Recife, Brazil. So the idea is to just be faithful to the idea that we're supposed to go out, plant churches, help people understand what God's calling them to do, equip them to do that, and hopefully get them on that path. So yeah, we're 14 years in. We're a baby church. We're learning a lot, and it's been kind of a bumpy path, but I will say the last 6 or 7 years have been great. Amazing things are happening with our people. With our ministries, and it's very exciting to see what God's doing through our people.
That is outstanding. Yeah. A lot of activity happening at Community Church Murphy's Landing. Now, what is your position there?
I'm an associate pastor, so I wear a lot of hats. Depending on who you ask, I do a lot of different things. Primarily, one of my main functions is to connect people into the life of the church. So that's pretty much from the front door experience into our membership class, giving them the opportunity to become a member if they want. That doesn't mean they can't still serve, but membership into a class we call Gifted, which is a spiritual gifts class. So it's helping people uncover their spiritual gifts, kind of align that with their passions and their interests, and then hopefully hooking them up with a ministry where they can really thrive. We go from there into a class called Contagious. It's a class based on relational evangelism, which is basically kind of opposite the view that I grew up with as a young person, going door to door, just kind of like standing on the street corner. It's not that approach at all. It's a class that teaches people that there already are people you have family, and they're watching you. So when the time comes to share your faith, will you be able to do that effectively, or will you kind of buckle under the pressure? So it's just kind of an organic class teaching people how to share their faith practically. From there, we try to get people plugged into life groups. A lot of churches have cell group programs or small group. Ours are called life groups. The idea there is to get people plugged into community of our church. Small groups, usually 8 to 20 people. And those also serve as kind of portable service units. It's very difficult to organize church-wide events in the city, but you can get 10 people together pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So we have several small groups in our church, and they meet, they pray together, they encourage, they care for one another, they do studies. And when it comes time to serve, they choose from one of our various outreach ministries, and they get to work.
Very good.
So I do all that as well as oversee the student ministry, high school and middle school. Training leaders and teachers to work with those students and provide opportunities for them. Just got back last night late from a Christian college road trip where I took some high school kids on a trip to see Christian colleges to see if that might be an option for them, in a couple of years when they head off to college. So a lot of different things.
That is outstanding. Now we also have Jerry McAfee here. And Jerry, what do you do at Community Church at Murphy's Landing?
Well, we have put together what we call an outreach committee, or we also call it Missions Across the Street, where we have identified a handful of nonprofit organizations that our church family can connect with, so that they can reach out, not so much to bring those back to our church as much as to bring others to Christ, as well as our own church family to Christ by serving others. So we, a couple years ago, when the committee got kind of reestablished, identified 6 or 7 different organizations, some very close to the church, some just downtown, to help identify the events that they might be having, needs that they may be having, where either individuals or collectively through our life groups, as Jason mentioned, can go out as a team to help build a house or help teach English to folks from Myanmar who are just new to the city, or even helping in the local schools nearby to provide them with backpacks or school supplies, things like that. There's just all sorts of opportunities. We just tried to identify those and help inform our church family of some of those opportunities throughout the year.
That is outstanding. I tell you, when you're talking about ministry, sometimes the time just flies, as it does on the show sometimes. And so, but in our time remaining, I want to talk about a little bit about what's happening at the church. You've got an event coming up soon, Jerry?
Yes, Exodus Refugee Immigration Services. They need people to help teach English. You don't need to be an English teacher, just to be able to speak English, help these new folks who are new to our country, brand new, just get around, communicate. And there's going to be a instructional class coming up on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday the 6th, where you can learn about that, and then you can connect that way by helping these folks just get along through speaking the language better.
That is outstanding. Now, we do have some information about Community Church at Murphy's Landing on the screen. We'll cue that up in just a second here, but it's an outstanding ministry, outstanding outreach ministry on the south side, and that's information from a previous program, so we won't look at that. But while they're getting that together, again, that's the Exodus Refugee Immigration Program. That'll be at 1125 Brookside Avenue, and they're looking for English teachers, so that'll be on Monday from 6 to 8. And then on Tuesday from 2:30 to 4:30, and they can also contact your church for more information on that. We'd like to get the information, but if not, you can contact us here at Religion in the News through the wishtv.com website, and we'll have that information for you. Jason, in our remaining time, tell us, how did you get involved with the ministry?
That was interesting. I kind of backed into ministry. I did not take the usual path, or I would not say it's usual, but common, of Christian high school, Bible college, seminary ministry. I actually was a teacher here in the city for about 14 years, Center Grove schools and mostly Lawrence Township schools as a music teacher, a band director, and got my master's at Butler University a few years ago in school administration. Was about to head down that path. Actually had possibly a job lined up in my own building as an assistant principal. And right during that same phase of time, it was June, 4 years ago, I just had this sense that God wanted me to apply for this new position that was being created at my home church. I did not want to apply for that position. I was, typically, the Bible is full of reluctant prophets and just kind of confused disciples. I was one of those. I couldn't understand why it'd be me. And so I was kind of hoping I would enter that process and get rejected at the end. But as it turned out, that process worked out for me. I ended up kind of taking a huge, well, it wasn't kind of, it was a huge leap of faith to leave a career that I was very good and successful at into ministry, where I was just Jason, And so that's, again, testament. The Bible says that God uses the foolish to confound the wise, and I feel like that a lot. I feel like that guy. But when it's me just being obedient to what he wants me to do, I've found that he fulfills what he wants to do through me. So it's been great. And although I may have had a plan, it's him that's determined the steps.
Wow.
So that's kind of how it happened.
That's how it happens, I'm sure, with a lot of people. And we want to thank you, Jason and Jerry, for joining us today on the show, and look forward to hearing more about what's happening at your ministry. Sure. So do stay in touch.
Will do. Thank you.
We'll be back right after this.